Story 1. Not letting children do messy activities or shouting because their clothes get dirty. Why go to the beach with a child and then get upset if they get sand in their shoes? Story 2. It is not a rule, but please do not insult or compare your children with others. Not all are the same, and this hurts more in the long run. Story 3. Being dismissive of their children's interests, such as telling a child that their favorite music group is not real music or that their favorite cartoon is obnoxious, can be harmful. Every generation of children has trends, fads, and media that their parents do not understand. Break the cycle by accepting anything that is not actively harmful or dangerous. Story 4. Constantly asking children if they have a boyfriend or girlfriend, especially preschool and elementary school-age children, is unnecessary. Why do this? How young do you think children should start feeling inadequate about romantic relationships? It is simply too strange. Story 5. Giving them no privacy by going through their rooms, journals, tablet, phone, car, and other personal belongings is intrusive. Unless there is a legitimate concern, allow them to be themselves and have things that are private. They are human too. Story 6. Not setting and enforcing boundaries around your child's behavior can lead to persistent poor behavior. Additionally, these children may miss out on years of quality early friendships and relationship skills, which can result in worse friendships, insecurity, and poor impulse control later in life. Story 7. I have one, but a word of caution to preface. I am a special education teacher and have been for 21 years. I took many classes on how developmental and environmental factors can negatively impact brain and behavioral development. When I started teaching, I had so much criticism and advice on how to parent better. 5 years into my career, I had my first child, and I just knew I had all the textbook learning to be the best parent ever. Let me tell you, parenting, much like teaching, has more on-the-job training than can ever be covered in a book. I am now the mother of 3 and much less judgmental of other families than when I was 23 years old and thought I knew it all. That said, I consider myself lucky for the education I received and the amount of research I read. The most common mistake I see that needs to be changed is this: do not jump directly to punishment. Teach a replacement behavior instead. If you do not teach a child what you want them to do instead, you will not see a change in behavior. Jumping directly to punishment, especially physical punishment, encourages children to lie about and hide misbehaviors. It has a higher rate of recidivism. Discipline takes longer than punishment, but it creates much more morally mature, compassionate, and confident adults. Punishment is about satisfaction and revenge for the adult. Discipline is about teaching, implementing logical consequences, and changing behavior. My other point would be open to changing your parenting approach. Many people are quick to say, I was raised that way and I am fine. Are you, though? Be willing to admit personal fault or ignorance and strive to do better. Your children are whole humans. They deserve that much. Story 8. Forcing physical affection like hugs and kisses teaches children that their boundaries do not matter, and constantly defaulting to screens instead of interaction reinforces emotional distance. Meanwhile, violating privacy by snooping through their belongings erodes trust in ways that last for years. Many common parenting habits prioritize convenience or control over a child's emotional well-being. Children remember which adults made them feel respected and which made them feel like an afterthought. Story 9. My parents really normalized getting disproportionately angry at every minor inconvenience. I was well into my 20s before I realized that rage was not a normal way to respond to things I did not like. Story 10. When I was growing up, the saying was children should be seen and not heard. A child who only grows up talking to other children is going to stay immature longer. This is why only children tend to be more mature. But also, why would parents have children just to ignore them? Story 11. The Clean Plate Club, also known as forcing your child to finish every bite of food on their plate no matter what, is an objectively terrible way to teach kids how to get proper portions because it is counterproductive. It only teaches them to force themselves to eat even after they are sick or full, which often leads them and future generations of their family to be morbidly obese for life. I understand that nobody wants to waste food, but if that is the problem, Just teach your child to get less of it and to go back for more if they are still hungry when they finish it. That aside, I would honestly rather throw some away than abuse a child. Forcing your child to hurt themselves by overeating is abusive. I also agree with everyone who responded to me that this problem can be worse when parents pick out the portions for their children, especially when those portions are adult-sized. The same mindset mentioned above applies to that. Children should be free to stop eating when they are full regardless of who is putting the food on the plate. Many of you mentioned saving uneaten food as leftovers, and I agree that is a good idea. Saving it for later is fine. Expecting a child who is full to force it all down in one sitting is not. Story 12. Be strong, don't cry, said the father of daughters at 2 funerals, one literally last week. You will see people crying, you will be sad, and you will cry. It is okay. I will be crying too. Forget that machismo attitude. Be human. Story 13. Tough love is necessary because otherwise, you are coddling them. I am a therapist, and the lifelong impact of a parent who is not empathetic in all those little moments is tremendous. Story 14. Classic control tactic disguised as parenting. Teaches children that love is conditional and their voice does not matter. Congratulations, you have raised an adult who says sorry when asking for ketchup. Story 15. I feel it is abusive to post photos of your children on social media, especially when it references something embarrassing or disciplinary that they have done. For example, people on my friends list post photos of their children with captions like, "X cheated on a test, so now we are doing extra chores," accompanied by a picture of the child cleaning. Similar situations include filming and posting when a child has a tantrum or meltdown. To me, this feels needlessly cruel, considering that child will eventually become an adult and the internet is permanent. They will grow up with a negative online presence filled with embarrassing photos, videos, and text posts they never consented to, which could affect their social lives as they get older. To be clear, I believe it is wrong to post your children online at all because data privacy is not assured in most of the world, and it is really disturbing to see people punish their children publicly like that. Story 16. You do not want to end up like the janitor, do you? Most custodians and janitors like their jobs and have an important role in society. Stop viewing certain jobs as failures. Story 17. When they get mad at you for crying or say, "I will give you something to cry about," like, "Dude, are you serious right now? I can't handle my emotions. I am anxious and tired, so I cry like any other normal person would." But they threaten to hurt you or spank you in general. Yes, I know sometimes you have to, but not all the time or with shoes or whatever you can find. That is abuse. Story 18. Because I said so. It shuts down curiosity, discourages critical thinking, and teaches children that authority does not need to make sense. Just obey. Story 19. Embarrassing them over the simplest things like having a crush completely killed any desire to look for a partner. I would go out of my way to avoid getting a partner. Story 20. There is no age requirement for knowledge. My child does not have to be going through puberty to understand their anatomy, nor do they need to be a teenager to know what guns are. I will always fully and thoroughly answer any question to the best of my ability when asked, regardless of age. There is no age limit for learning. Hiding information behind walls is damaging to the growth of any child. Story 21. Respect your elders. Now, adults are not always right. They are not always trustworthy. They do not always know best. And they certainly are not always worthy of respect. I made sure my children all knew that questioning authority is acceptable. I encouraged them to question us as their parents. I changed my mind about things more than once after my school-age children challenged my reasoning. Story 22. Being overly strict is always going to lead to rebellion. I had a friend in high school whose mother would not let her date anyone. If she did date someone, there was a long list of requirements. This was because her mother was a single mom and did not want the same thing to happen to her daughter. They were also very religious. The requirements were that he had to go to the same church and be a youth pastor for 5 years, among other things. When she turned 18, she said, "You can't tell me what to do anymore," and found a guy who got her pregnant. They were supposed to get married, but he stalled. got her pregnant again, and then left. I wasn't allowed to date her because I didn't fit the criteria, but I'm just saying I wouldn't have gotten her pregnant. And if I did, I wouldn't have left. The surprising part was that the guy she found mostly met the requirements her mother wanted. Also, telling your kids to never do something is a bad idea. I had a rule growing up that my parents preferred I not drink underage, but if I did, I had to call them 100% of the time. It didn't matter if it was a Thursday at 3 a.m. No drinking and driving or getting into a car with someone who had been drinking and wanted to drive. The agreement was that if I did this, there would be no punishment other than maybe a hangover. Drinking and driving has never been an issue for me. Stupid rules create a don't get caught mentality. Your kids will do things they shouldn't. Don't just tell them not to do it. Give them the tools to be safe and the trust that they can come to you if they make mistakes. As cool as my parents were with drinking, they were the opposite about sex. I used to keep a condom with me when I went places. It was a failsafe just in case. I wasn't sexually active as a teenager, but I knew that if the situation arose, I probably wouldn't say no. I had the better safe than sorry mentality. One day, my mother found the condom on me and lost her temper. Luckily, she mostly listened to reason, but she definitely didn't like it. Story 23. Being forced to hug and kiss family members or others at the direction of a parent is not appropriate. Children need to understand that their body belongs to them. They have the right to decide who they hug and when. Story 24. Punishing children for accidents, such as spilling a drink on the carpet, is unacceptable. I cannot stand parents who are mean to their children over things like that. Story 25. Telling your son to always be strong, that a man must be strong, can have consequences. For me, the fact that a man does not show his emotions can, in the future, negatively affect the course of his life, whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or other connections. It is actually good to show vulnerability. Story 26. If your parents work and you are an older sibling, you are automatically a babysitter and have to sacrifice your childhood for the sake of the family. This teaches both older and younger children that their needs do not matter, and a great deal of resentment builds. Story 27. Getting mad for saying sorry. My most sincere apologies, Father. It appears you raised your child to be polite and respectful. It drove me nuts as a kid when I accidentally did something and said sorry, only to be told to stop saying sorry because it does not mean anything anymore. Story 28. Forcing children to eat their dinner or go to bed hungry is harmful. I was forced to eat food I disliked or go to bed hungry, which was very stressful as a child. My oldest child is autistic, and I vowed not to do that to him. He had a very limited diet for his first 14 years but is now 16 and willing to try everything. He reached this milestone in his own time. Story 29. Not exactly a rule, but I hate it when parents of newborns refer to their baby as a Casanova, playboy, or flirt just because they glanced at another child of the opposite gender. No, Sharon, your 10-month-old is not flirting with the neighbor's child. He is glancing at things because he is curious. I especially dislike it when parents dress their babies in onesies that have text like, "Lock up your sons," or "Lock up your daughters." Story 30. It is unfathomable how many parents still think corporal punishment is acceptable. We know it is ineffective and damaging to the child. They cannot understand why their child hits them while they are hitting the child. No child ever needs to be spanked, slapped, popped, or hooped. If you did any of that to an adult, you would be breaking the law. Why would anyone think it is acceptable to do it to a defenseless child? There are many nonviolent, effective discipline techniques. People should take responsibility and choose better methods. There are far too many harmful individuals who should never have children. Story 31. Constant teasing. My father and brother were terrible for it. Not mean necessarily, but just constant. I think that's why I try not to show emotion about anything. Also, using anything a parent has done for you against you. My children did not ask to be here. I am not going to constantly throw in their face what I gave up. That makes a child feel pretty bad. Story 32. Telling your children to share because another child wants what they have teaches them to be people pleasers and ignore their own feelings. It is better for children to learn how to set boundaries at an early age. such as, "I'm not finished playing yet, but you can use it when I'm done," or "This is my favorite toy, so I don't want others to use it." This is especially important for girls. Story 33, One size fits all parenting. My children are neurodivergent, and standard parenting techniques do not work. Story 34. Not allowing sleepovers at any age can create a deep fear of any adult who is not a parent. Instead of teaching children how healthy adults should treat them, it hinders their ability to bond with their peers. Transitioning from, "I would never let my 16-year-old sleep over at a friend's house, what if the dad hit on her?" to "My 18-year-old is off to college and fending for herself," a year and a half later skips some crucial developmental steps for the child. Story 35. Telling your quiet or introverted child any variation of, "We never had to worry about you." You may think it is a compliment, but it can really feel like, "We never had to think about you." Story 36. Telling your children maybe, and we will see, when you do not intend to keep that promise is unhelpful. Seriously, just say no and save everyone the trouble. Story 37. My mom and dad, especially my mom, believed in not giving me a false sense of being good at something if I was not. They did not hang up my artwork, criticized my stories, and told me I was bad at singing. They thought this was giving me a realistic view of the world. As a result, I have never tried art. I do not write even though I love to. I do not sing and I do not dance. I just do not attempt anything because I think I am probably not good at it. Parents should be children's biggest supporters. Story 38. I don't think it applies to every parent, but teaching your child to accept no when shopping at a grocery store is important. It should be mandatory to teach children at a young age not to be spoiled. When you cannot afford a chocolate bar at the checkout aisle and your child is crying over it in front of other people, it affects everyone around. Story 39. Forcing your child to finish all the food on their plate sets the idea in their mind that they must always do so. This can lead to overeating and contributes to becoming overweight. Story 40. I think there is a growing problem in today's society. Insane expectations towards parents. I know some parents are careless, but the majority are doing their best and are determined to be better than their own parents. Many of them are losing their minds over it. There is so much theory on child psychology, but what about parent psychology and the intense pressure constantly placed on them in a society where most things that are theoretically good for the child are impractical for the parents? Everything you think might be good for your child in one way might be harmful in another. Too much effort is spent thinking about the perfect way to raise a child and not enough time considering the changes needed in society to organically adapt our overall mindset and behavioral patterns. Now we have exhausted and frustrated parents doing their best to be textbook perfect but needing medication to manage their mood and energy levels. Telling them the many ways they could improve only adds to their guilt and pressure. Sadly, in parenting, people often mistake mental health struggles for laziness. Story 41. Let children be children. However, if your child is stealing or engaging in illegal activities, they need to be disciplined immediately and learn about the consequences of their actions. Story 42. Not sure that it is a rule per se, but parents who place their children in front of a tablet while out are not only being lazy but also emotionally damaging their children. Of course, children want to watch their tablet constantly. They do not know how to regulate themselves. What they really want is human connection, especially with their family. When you have a bad relationship with your child in 20 years, think about how you plop them in front of a tablet to sedate them rather than calming and entertaining them yourself. Story 43. Strict rules around food and television can be understandable in moderation. However, when parents say, "No television in this house," or "Absolutely no sugar in this house," the obsessive control may lead to rebellion or depression in children. Story 44. Gendering toys involves telling young children, "No, you cannot play with those toys or have those toys because they are for the opposite gender of the child." Story 45. The world is a hard place. They need to learn that from me. The world is going to teach them on its own that it is a hard place. They will have to survive that. It is better if they go through all that with a wise mentor or a coach. Someone who understands that the world is hard and unfair and has the unwavering loyalty of a devoted wingman. That is my philosophy. I think that is part of how you teach what love looks like from a parent to a child. Story 46. Teach them that crying will not get them what they want. Yes, you need to teach them not to completely freak out over not getting ice cream every day. However, the way to do that is not to simply ignore them when they are crying or to scream at or threaten them. For example, phrases like, "Dry it up before I give you something to cry about," are not helpful. I'm not a parent, so I do not know the perfect solution. But if you ignore them or punish them for being upset, you are really teaching them that their feelings do not matter to you, or worse, that they should actively suppress their feelings. A child is probably not going to understand why they should not have ice cream every day, but you want to at least acknowledge that you know they are upset and that you are not doing it to upset them. They will feel better if they eat better and will have more energy to play. Story 47. Making your child feel like they owe you anything or everything for creating or birthing them when nobody asked to be here. Story 48. Not a rule, but I think the phrase "because I said so" is unhelpful. It does not teach anything, creates damaging power dynamics in future relationships, sets them up for power imbalances, and teaches them that their thoughts and opinions do not matter. It causes them to learn not to question any form of authority or perceived authority as they continue to grow. Story 49. Parents who intervene and do everything for their child make it harder for the child to grow up and learn independently. Failing or feeling frustrated is part of the learning process. When parents consistently do tasks for their child to prevent upset feelings, it impedes the child's development. Story 50. Giving children a toxic view of food, either by promoting overeating or insufficient eating. The "clean your plate or else" mentality took me years to unlearn. Story 51. Many of these comments offer good advice. However, it is clear that many of the people commenting do not have children. Parents make mistakes, but it is important to consider the bigger picture. Story 52. I studied a bit of child psychology at university. There is honestly so much parents could be doing better, and so much that is actually damaging in terms of later life outcomes. Letting your child scream, not having dinner as a family, being too strict or not strict enough, not setting proper boundaries, relying on negative reinforcement based on what your child has told you instead of educating, not teaching your child all you can in their early years, 1 to 4 years old, not setting proper bedtimes at night, for example, lights out at 8 p.m., lack of communication with your children, not reading to them at night, answering questions definitively instead of helping them puzzle things out, and lack of the color green in a child's environment are all problematic. Seriously, I cannot think of all the issues at the moment, but you could write a book on the millions of little ways parents fail their children every day. It is quite surprising when you see longitudinal studies on how these factors affect children, increasing the chances of drug addiction, incarceration, emotional regulation issues, socialization difficulties, and negative coping mechanisms. I know it is almost impossible to do everything perfectly, but I have seen many parents who are either simply ignorant or too tired to do many of the important things. Even when they try their best, they can sometimes fall short. Story 53. Isolating children in their room for a timeout and not letting them out until they learn how to be calm. Story 54. Telling a child to stop crying or whining is conditioning the child to shut down their emotions simply because the parent cannot handle their child's big emotions. Children need to be shown that it is okay to feel their feelings and that they can move through them in a healthy way. Story 55. Protecting traditional gender roles onto your child. I did not need to hear comments about body hair removal, concealing blemishes with makeup, or wearing shapewear under the age of 18. Story 56. You have to finish everything on your plate. Usually, the child has no say in portion size. Are we just trying to make our children obese at this point? Story 57. Trying to make children feel bad for not being grateful for you performing basic parenting duties you agreed to when you chose to combine your DNA with someone else's. That child had no choice. Story 58. Making babies cry it out. Your 1-month-old baby is not manipulating you by crying at bedtime. Pick the baby up and help soothe it. Babies cry for a reason, and making them cry it out teaches the baby that you will not be there for their basic needs. Story 59. Making you hug your relatives. If a child does not want to hug someone and you force them, at best you are making them uncomfortable and teaching them they do not have autonomy. At worst, you are making them hug their abuser. Story 60. Reminding your child they made a mistake, either shortly after the event or a long time later. Even now, I feel guilt when I think I have messed something up or remember a time that I did. It really disrupts the emotions. Story 61. Weaponizing food. My husband once told me about his friend sending their child to bed without dinner, and upon my reaction of horror, said, "Weren't you ever sent to bed hungry?" No. I was definitely sent to my room but called down for dinner and made to go straight back upstairs. Never was I made to go hungry, and I will never restrict food as punishment. To me, that is abuse, not discipline. Story 62. Do not talk back to me. Create a space where your child does not feel the need to constantly explain themselves. Story 63. Is it bleeding? Is it broken? Is it on fire? No? Then it does not matter. Do not bother me. Why did you never come to me for help? Bonus. Growing up chronically ill and never once getting care or being believed because I did not earn whatever pain I was claiming. Story 64. Asking if the opposite sex friend of your child is their boyfriend or girlfriend, or teasing them about their little boyfriend or little girlfriend, makes things uncomfortable and feel wrong. Let your children experience friendship without your doubts about their feelings. They are children. They will figure out if they like each other in their own time. Stop making it awkward. Story 65. My mom, when she was upset with me, instead of talking to me like I was a human being, would call family members or friends while I was in the room and say terrible things about me in front of me to other people. This was really common in the 1990s. I had a bunch of friends whose parents did the same. My mother called me while she had one of my nieces for the summer. I am 30 years old and have no children. She started talking about how the child had been misbehaving and how angry she was. I cut her off and asked, "Is she in the room with you right now? Can she hear you?" My mom said, "Of course, what's the big deal?" I told her off for about 10 minutes straight because I was not going to be the whip she used to beat that child emotionally. She claimed innocence, saying she had no idea it hurt me and my sisters when she did that to us as children, and that she did not do it to be cruel, but so she would not take out her frustrations on us. I told her that it was passive-aggressive and wrong. If you have to tell others about your child's misdeeds, for the love of God, do not do it in front of them. If you have to talk about them to family while the child is present, only tell family the good things. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.